There are moments in life that don't announce themselves. They arrive quietly, wrapped in memory, and leave us changed. For Deborah Roberts, one such moment came not under studio lights or during a breaking news broadcast, but in the stillness of an unseen family photograph. It wasn't meant for the public. No headlines, no captions, just a photograph tucked away for years, holding a story that time had softened, but never erased. When Deborah first saw it again, she didn't speak. She paused, because some images don't ask to be explained, they ask to be felt. The photograph captured a fleeting, ordinary day, one of those days that never feels important until decades later. A younger Deborah, a familiar smile that hadn't yet learned restraint. Al Roker beside her, relaxed in a way only youth and uncertainty allow. And around them, the fragile promise of family just beginning to take shape. But what stopped her wasn't what the photo showed, it was what it remembered. Deborah Roberts has spent a lifetime telling other people's stories. She has reported from world capitals and quiet hospital rooms. She has spoken with grace through national tragedies and personal triumphs. Yet here, facing a frozen moment from her own past, she found herself momentarily unanchored. This, she later reflected, was before we knew how hard it could get. For viewers in their 60s, those who have lived long enough to know the weight of that sentence, it lands with unmistakable truth. Because that photograph came from a chapter before illness tested their marriage, before sleepless nights carried worry instead of ambition, before parenthood reshaped priorities and time itself began to feel more precious. Deborah didn't cry at first. Instead, she smiled. A soft, knowing smile that comes from recognizing the person you once were and honoring them without wishing to return. What the photo revealed wasn't perfection, it revealed becoming. In the years since that image was taken, Deborah Roberts would learn how strength often grows quietly, how love matures not through grand gestures, but through showing up again and again when life veers off script. She would learn that partnership isn't forged in ease, but in endurance. And that lesson, etched invisibly into the photograph, was suddenly unmistakable. She noticed details she had forgotten, the way their shoulders leaned towards each other, the unguarded confidence of a future still unwritten, the absence of fear, not because life was simple, but because its storms were still unknown. For many watching, this moment resonates deeply. At 60 or 65, you've likely lived through your own unseen photographs, moments that once felt small, now monumental. You've weathered changes you never planned for. You've said goodbye to versions of yourself with quiet grace. And like Deborah, you've learned that memory isn't about longing, it's about understanding. What moved Deborah most was not nostalgia, it was gratitude. Gratitude for having grown, for having endured, for having loved deeply enough to be changed by it. She spoke of how the photograph reminded her that vulnerability is not weakness, it is evidence of living fully. That the years that followed, with all their trials, were not a departure from joy, but a deepening of it. And perhaps that's why this unseen family photo matters, not because it reveals a secret, but because it reflects a truth many of us carry silently. That life doesn't unfold in perfect frames, it unfolds in fragments, in quiet mornings, in unexpected challenges, in relationships that demand patience long after passion has matured into something steadier and stronger. Deborah Roberts' reaction was raw not because of sadness, but because of recognition. Recognition that love evolves, that resilience leaves marks, and that the most powerful stories are often the ones we never meant to share. As she gently set the photograph aside, she didn't close a chapter. She honored it. And in doing so, she offered something rare to those watching, permission to look back without regret, to acknowledge change without fear, and to embrace the beauty of having lived long enough to see meaning where once there was only motion. For those in their 60s and beyond, this moment isn't just Deborah's, it's yours. Because somewhere, in a drawer or an album, there's a photograph waiting to remind you not of who you were, but of everything you've survived, everything you've loved, and everything that still matters. Sometimes the most powerful revelations come not from what's shown to the world, but from what quietly waits to be remembered.